Hey guys, in today's episode, we introduce a new segment of Love It, Hate It, or Leave It, and then we also talk about our favorite underrated animated movies of all time.
Welcome to the Coach and Commish podcast. No, not Adam Gase, and definitely not Roger Goodell. It's Chris and Sean breaking down fantasy football for the everyday man.
Welcome back. You're here with the Coach and Commish. I'm Chris. This is Sean. Am I right? And today we're looking at some takes off of Week 10. Another not as crazy as Week 9, but it was a very odd fantasy week.
Yeah, a lot more upsets, a couple of injuries, and yeah, not a lot of points. I feel like 2 weeks in a row now we've had some pretty low-scoring fantasy games. I've won twice in a row with 85 points in our league, which is unheard of.
I lost to one guy because he had Patrick Mahomes, and then the
rest of his team was trash.
Almost doubled the rest of his starting lineup in points.
Yep.
It is a very weird week. So we're going to start off with this new segment, a little bit of a spicy takes here from coming off of Week 10. But we're going to go with Love It, Hate It, or Leave It. So I'm going to say a statement that's going around coming off of Week 10. And I'm going to ask Sean, does he love it? That means it's up there. Does he hate it? Throw that away. And then if he leaves it, it's not even worth his time. He's just leaving it on the table and walking away. So, Sean, you got about 5 or 6 takes here, and I want to see if you love it, hate it, or leave it. Number 1 here, Mac Jones is the best QB from the 2021 NFL draft class.
So I need you to clarify probably, because if you mean this season, I don't think it's much of a competition. It's Mac Jones. But do you mean career long?
Career long.
Oh, that's really difficult because you got 2 really high upside guys. And are we talking fantasy or the real NFL?
Real NFL.
So for the real NFL, I do think that he has a great shot of being the best from this class.
Do you love it?
I love it, I think. Yeah, because Trey Lance and Justin Fields, we've seen a little bit from Justin Fields lately to where he might kind of turn it on. He was my favorite coming out. And I still think he has the opportunity to beat Mac Jones. But just the situation that Mac Jones is in with the coaching staff that he has, the team that Belichick's kind of put around him, I just think that he's set up for success. I don't think he'll be another Brady, but I think he'll be a serviceable quarterback in this league the rest of the year.
You are the local Patriot lover as a Dolphins fan, but I don't know. I see a little blueprint of a Tom Brady build up.
Shut up.
The same.
Stop.
Okay. All right, so take number 2 here. Odell Beckham Jr. is a wide receiver 2 in fantasy now with the Rams.
So
tough first week here, but as he gets acclimated with the offense, he's a wide receiver 2 in lineups.
Yeah, you can't judge it off of that. This is one where I'm gonna leave it. I think I'm gonna probably lean to the hate it because I want to caution people if they're thinking he's really gonna be this solid guy for my lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw Robert Woods had a lot of really bad weeks, and he's been in this offense for a long time. I think that he is worse than Robert Woods. Like, if you gave me rest of season Robert Woods on the Rams and OBJ on the Rams, I would have preferred to continue with Robert Woods. But they're going to need him. You kind of saw on the game there that they just didn't really have a way to fill that second or third receiver spot. As he gets more integrated into the offense, I think he'll be a good option for fantasy, but he's not somebody I'm locking into my lineup. I'm going to need some good matchups, and I'm going to want to see it. Like next week, I don't think I'm going to just trust to throw him out there.
Okay. All right. As a man that loves the kickers in games here, love it, hate it, or leave it, the game Detroit-Pittsburgh tie this past Sunday.
That game, I mean, how can you do anything but hate that? I mean, that's one of the worst games I've ever watched. We watched it together with our friend of the show, Jake Seeley.
Yeah.
And it was just disgusting. I mean, the rain was gross. The quarterbacks were gross. It was not a fun game. Hawkinson was on my team, and I just kept saying, just throw it to Hawkinson, and he ended up with a goose egg. But yeah, I'm gonna definitely hate that. That was a terrible game.
There was a moment in that overtime when the kicker for Detroit was Santoso was stepping up, and as a Gopher fan, I remember from college. And Sean looks at me and says, "Is he gonna make?" And quickly and confidently, I was like, "No." And I didn't say because of weather, whatever. It's like this game deserves to be a tie.
Yeah.
This is how awful it was. All right, moving on from that ugliness. A.J. Dillon is a must start in all formats while Aaron Jones is out.
Yeah, I love that. There's probably very little situations where you're going to have players on your roster that I think you should be able to sit A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, I don't think he's going to be quite an Aaron Jones level of player, but I see him easily as a top RB2, and at certain weeks he'll be ranked as an RB1, I would think.
All right, so you're loving it. Do you love it enough to give away assets for 2 weeks of A.J. Dillon?
This is a great situation where if you are on that bubble for the playoffs and you need to push yourself into that category, and you've got somebody who's hurt. I'm trying to think of Julio's not a great one because you're not going to get much for Julio at this point, but I'm trying to think of somebody that
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, Hopkins might
There you
be.
go.
I mean, I wouldn't. That's a little rich for my blood with Hopkins, but there's players out there that you can trade, I think, off of big weeks to go get A.J. Dillon before people realize who they have. And I would be willing to trade those assets to get A.J. Dillon to push me into the playoffs because I think he will be a solid RB2 this rest of. We're probably talking. They haven't put him on IR yet, have they?
No.
So potentially only 2 weeks, but I would guess more like 3.
Okay. Last one here. The great Cam Newton is back, and he will lead the Panthers to the playoffs.
I mean, this is another one I'm on the verge of leaving it, but I guess I will love it just because I think this team is really good, and then all they needed was a quarterback. Cam Newton, the swagger's back in town for the Carolina Panthers. I think that they needed this. The other part that we're gonna forget about is that Christian McCaffrey is back, and that's probably more important than getting Cam Newton, and that's what's really going to help.
Very true.
I mean, you saw this team with Sam Darnold was a very good team when Christian McCaffrey was in the lineup. So now that he's back, I think that they can make a push for that playoff for sure.
All right, so that was our love it, hate it, leave it segment. If you think we were wrong for loving or hating something, let us know. But now we're going to go to the party question of the week.
Ian, would you like to go to a party in my pants?
No, Brick.
All right, let's go.
Our party question of the week is all about what we think is the most underrated animated movie of all time. Of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time. And some of these, we had to go back to our childhood to remember.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you get the animated movies from. Although I do enjoy animated movies still. I'm excited to watch them with my kids.
They've gone so much to where everyone can enjoy it. Back when we were growing up, it was just kids. Now,
I feel like
everybody can.
the start of this isn't going to count as underrated, but Shrek, I feel like, was the start of that, where they were like, you know what, we could put humor in there for adults too, to where they will enjoy these movies. I wanted to say Madagascar. I feel like it's not underrated enough. Chris made a good point that there's been 3 of them, so it can't be that underrated.
In TV shows, yeah.
I would probably say Madagascar 2 would be the most underrated because 2s never do well. I actually think it was
better than
first.
first.
I don't think it was better, but it was pretty competitively. Whereas like Shrek 2,
Yeah,
give me Shrek 1 only. But my real pick here is I'm going to do Shark Tale.
Nice.
Now there's a lot of people that may not even know this movie. It was a Will Smith movie. It was really good. Just a hilarious movie that I enjoyed watching over and over again. One of his better movies. I know he has quite a few duds in his catalog, but this is one that I think really hit. It was Jack Black as a shark.
Had a lot of great voices.
Yeah, Robert De Niro. I mean, just a lot of good. I think it had Angelina Jolie and Renee Zellweger. Just some good voices in there, and it was a pretty hilarious movie. So if you got some extra time and you want to throw on an animated movie for the kids, Shark Tale.
Well, mine is probably not going to be as well known as Shark Tale at all. I am going back to one of my favorite movies when I was a kid, and you probably can't remember this, but there was a Lion King 1.5.
I remember hearing about it, but I could not tell you about the movie.
My favorite part of Lion King, and this is from the original number 1, I loved Timon and Pumbaa the most. Mm-hmm. I did. I always did. Every
Do you
time
relate
I watched
with Pumbaa?
it.
Is that what?
Well, more to Timon, I guess. Pumbaa, Timon, yeah. That should probably be my new fantasy name.
You're Timon and your
Mike's
brother's
Pumbaa.
Pumbaa.
Yeah, pretty much. So, but in this film, they watch the original Lion King, right? In a theater room. And then they fast forward to their scene. So you see Timon and Pumbaa sitting in some movie theater or private viewing watching
I kind of
this.
remember that.
And then it goes from there, and then it goes to a regular movie because they want to go, rewind all the way back and gives you the origin stories of these two guys. And funny stuff, like they were at Pride Rock when Simba was being shown, and they were like just going through the onlookers, like, what's going on? What's all this commotion? And like the other back half all bowed, not because they saw Simba, but because of, I think it was Pumbaa farted, and everyone was just passed out. So it was just a ton of comedy. It's like, you give that comic relief inside a great movie, a little more light, 15 minutes. And that's what it was, and I think it was underrated. It deserves to be underrated because it's just a throwaway movie, but I loved it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to our turntables.
Turntables.
Well. How the turntables.
All right, so in this segment, Sean and I are going to go talk about guys we think we should trade for or trade away, and it's getting tougher as the weeks come in. This turntable segment might be a little tougher for trades because in most leagues, this week or next week is the deadline.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The segment's not going to last much longer. We're maybe 1 or 2 more weeks. In our league, this will be the end of it. Chris thought it was last week.
I did. Listen to the other
I should do my
podcast.
trade target as Chris. Just trade with Chris because you get fantastic deals. Listen to the 757 podcast. There's quite a debate on why Marquise Brown apparently is pretty even with Rashad Bateman.
Will be rest of season. There's a water bet.
There is.
All right, so I'll start.
I like how we were water betting. So we're just putting it out there how much of a fan we are of the fantasy footballers. So
yes, we are. So I'll start off with my turntable pick here. This was your sit pick, and his touchdowns late made you look wrong, but I agreed with everything else of the game. Trade away Antonio Gibson. He's been frustrating to all of you owners for most of the season, and I don't think this Sunday against Tampa, this past Sunday, is a glimpse of hope. I think it's just a favor from the fantasy gods to give you a chip to move him for some better pieces. We talked about earlier A.J. Dillon. Would you trade Antonio Gibson 2-touchdown week, bigger name, for A.J. Dillon for 2 to 3 weeks to get you to the playoffs?
I like the idea in that. I believe you need to get more. You should be able to get a haul for Antonio Gibson at this point. People have been waiting for this 20-point game, 2 touchdowns. This is the time, I agree, to trade Antonio Gibson. He had 24 carries. This was in a game that they were leading. I don't know how their defense somehow got it together finally against the Bucks.
Yeah.
But he ran for 2.6 a carry. He still doesn't look great. I agree with Chris. I think that's a great target. Go trade Antonio Gibson for, A.J. Dillon and Tyler Lockett. You probably could get a deal like that done in your league.
I would, yeah. That'd be a great trade piece. Don't let the name scare you from letting him go. You got to play for this season. All right, Sean, who do you got?
All right, so this hits home personal. It was the gross goose egg. So I can tell you from experience, the T.J. Hawkinson owners are sitting there thinking, what am I going to do at tight end after getting a 0? It started off. This is the thing. The expectations were set high. We drafted him as the 5th tight end, I believe, off the board. Sometimes people were taking him over Andrews, but he was a high drafted tight end, and we got that. Beginning of the season, it looked great. He had a great start to the season. I was feeling fantastic about my pick. And then since then, it has been not so great. And then the goose this week, anytime a player gets a goose, go talk to that manager because they're feeling really bad about that player.
Yes, they are.
And they may be willing to give him away for very little. So beginning of the season, he had a 20-point game, a 16-point game. He had a 2-point game, which was not great. And then he's had some pretty not so great games in the last few weeks. Right before the bye, he had a 13-point game, which they probably already forgotten about. So they weren't able to start him last week on the bye, and then this week, a 0. I just think he's somebody that if you're going into the playoffs, you're a team that's set up well. I mean, there's a situation, we're going to keep talking about A.J. Dillon, but I would give up A.J. Dillon if I'm assured that I think I can make the playoffs without him. I'd give up A.J. Dillon to go get T.J. Hawkinson, upgrade my tight end spot. If you're sitting here trying to do the Dan Arnolds of the world, then I would try to go get Hawkinson.
And that's if you're in the position of I've got some depth. I'm in the driver's seat for playoffs. Now I need to get me somebody to shore up my starting lineup.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I agree with that. And yes, it's frustrating, but go for it. Yeah. Goose eggs, TJ Hawkinson should not happen again the rest of the season. All right. From here, we go to our start sit segment, AKA also known as Listen to Sean, Not Me segment. All right, so Sean, I'll let you start off here with the starts. Who do you got?
All right, so I've got Josh Jacobs. I think he's somebody that people have been frustrated with. They're probably considering benching this next coming week if they've got other options. If I had A.J. Dillon, I'd be starting him over probably Josh Jacobs. But of the other options on your roster, I feel pretty confident in Josh Jacobs. He got a lot of work this past week. It just didn't translate. He got a lot of work in the passing game, which was encouraging, even when they're down. They got blown out in that game. It's one of those games that I'm going to throw out and not worry too much about. Going against Cincinnati this week, I just feel confident in starting him. If you've got a person like Ramondre Stevenson, Devonta Freeman, Myles Gaskin, even CEH coming back from the injury, I would still try to start Josh Jacobs over.
Yeah, against Cincinnati, I think that's a good matchup. They're improved defense, but I think that'd be a good one to see where Jacobs.
I think the game script will be better, and like I said, it was encouraging the fact that they were down in the game and he was still in receiving passes. So
yeah, all right. So my start, I'm going to Cam Newton. If you are a streaming quarterback option, like if you're someone that's going with Kirk Cousins or a Carr, just because you're in a 12 to 14 team league and you got a bunch of guys rostering 2 QBs, I'm spending a good amount of my fab on Cam, not just for 1 week, but possibly to stream into the playoffs. And his rushing alone will be the reason why you pick him up off of waivers. And the red zone usage, he'll get touchdown passes if he's not the one rushing it in. So he's like a vulture to, and I hate it because I'm a CMC owner in like 2 other leagues. He's now coming back to the touchdown vulture from CMC when it comes to goal line.
All right, I'm going to throw some players out for you to see if you'll start over.
Okay.
So if you've got a Joe Burrow, are you looking at Joe Burrow for rest of season, or you dump him and try to pick up Cam?
Goodness gracious, you had to come with that one. I'll start Cam because of the schedule they'll face.
Okay, and the floor of the rushing, I think, is really nice. You already said Kirk Cousins. What about Ryan Tannehill?
I like Ryan Tannehill because there's no running backs there. He's going to be getting a lot of volume.
Okay, and then Derek Carr.
That the Raider offense is confusing right now, so I'd probably go with Cam.
Okay, so he's still looking at. Sounds like you're still looking at a streaming option.
Yeah,
but he's a good one. Yep, I like it.
All right, so let's go to sits here, Sean. This one makes me laugh. Who you picked? So you can start this one off.
I am going to sit all Philadelphia running backs. I don't know if you need to hear this because if you've been playing this game, you probably are as frustrated as anybody.
Yeah.
It's been rough without Miles Sanders there. It was rough with Miles Sanders there, let's be honest. They've had a few good rushing attacks. They just haven't been on teams that people have thought they could start. If you have to start one, it's probably Jordan Howard. He is still getting the work. But of course now Gainwell got into the end zone this week. It's just not a good thing to be a part of. If you can avoid this, I would avoid it at all costs. Specifically this week, they're playing the Saints, which has been a great defense, and I expect them to continue that. If I can avoid Jordan Howard, if I can avoid Boston Scott, if I can avoid I can't remember if Miles Sanders is eligible this week.
I don't think so.
Okay, if he is, I'm not taking the chance and starting that. I'm going to start guys. I'll probably start the Bills guys over. I mean, this is how much I want to. I mean,
Breida?
Yeah, Breida. Goodness gracious, just make it worse for us, the Bills. Why don't you?
I know.
I mean, like a Gaskin, a Devonta Freeman. Those are guys I'm starting over. Even if you got Antonio Gibson, we don't really like him, but I'm putting him in over any of those Philly guys. So just don't do it anymore. Drop them unless it's Miles Sanders, and move on.
Yeah. My sit of the week is someone I was loving coming into the season. He's still rostered, but he's been sitting for a while. Marvin Jones.
Yeah, he's been hurting me.
Should have capitalized on his England game. But outside, I'm looking over here, he got 2 catches on a game against the Colts where they came back. They had mop-up minutes, and he wasn't really in the whole game plan.
It's Trevor Lawrence's problem. Trevor Lawrence has been bad. I mean, it has not been good. So I'm gonna give you here. This is my game. I give you names, and you have to tell me yes or no.
No.
Who do you want? I put you to the test. You can't throw these takes out without me testing you on it. So Brandon Cooks, putting him in the lineup over Marvin Jones.
Oh yeah, I'm taking Cooks over Jones.
So Jones, now are you pretty much to the point where you're like, you can drop this man? Is that Is that where you're at, or?
Yeah, I think there's better wide receiver depth to pick up off of waivers.
So let's
now
say
over Marvin Jones.
Let's say a Kadarius Toney has been on the waiver wire after not playing. Am I picking up him over Marvin Jones?
Yes, because as we both know, the frustration of Toney was when he's in, he's good, and then he gets hurt.
Elijah Moore. What about a rookie there in the Jets?
I think it's about the same.
It's gross.
I'd probably give Marvin because I know the snap count for him.
All right, what about Donovan Peoples-Jones?
I'll take Peoples-Jones.
All right, and then we know you love Bateman.
Yeah. It's tattooed on my chest.
What about Corey Davis in the Jets offense there? It's probably similar to an Elijah Moore. And then last one here I'll give you is Brandon Ayuk.
I'm taking Ayuk. It looks like he's out of the doghouse, even though he's second fiddle to Debo and he's third fiddle if you put in Kittle. I'll take that over Marvin Jones, who should be the number one option in Jacksonville. It's just not looking great. Sit him, and especially it's against San Fran. That
Just saw they shut down the Rams passing attack. So
some of the Rams guys, like Kupp got his yardage, but really shut everything down. And Jones is no Cooper Kupp. So that's our start sits of the week. Sean, you got anything else for the listeners?
I don't think so. I mean, just keep fighting. If you're, on the brink of the playoffs, don't give up. This is the point where there's probably a lot of teams that are going to start giving up, and you can get those easy wins. Make your way towards the playoffs, and just keep fighting. It's not over yet. We still got, in our league, I think it's 3 more weeks of a regular season, so it's not over yet.
All right, man. Keep on fighting, and hopefully we help you get there. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Listen to the voiceover guy, to follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll see you guys next week.
Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Coach and Commish podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at Coach and Commish. And join our Facebook group called Fantasy Football Advice with the Coach and Commish for direct access to weekly waiver wire and start sit advice.